What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Earlier this week, we did our updated top 10 rookie wide receiver rankings after the NFL draft. I've been in a lot of these rookie drafts already, finished almost all of them up to this point. My rankings have been changing throughout. So today, what I wanted to do for you guys is give you my updated top 10 running backs in this year's class, because that was a strong point for this class coming into the NFL draft. So let's talk about it here today. If this is your first time at the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss any future content on the channel. But with that being said, let's hop right into today's video and let's talk about these running backs. All right, so I'm going to work my way from 10 all the way to number 1, working backwards to the number 1 running back here in this year's class. You guys probably already know the name. That's probably a spoiler alert, probably not. You knew the ending of this story. At the end of the day, though, let's start at 10. My number 10 running back in this year's class right now is going to be Jaydon Blue, running back for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Jaydon Blue was a player that I wasn't very high on coming into the NFL draft. He didn't have the cleanest of film profiles, and he didn't have the cleanest of analytical profiles either, but he's a player who has risen a ton throughout the post-draft process because of the landing spot here with Dallas. Now, he was drafted in the 5th round, pick 149 overall, so it's not necessarily the greatest of draft capital, but when you compare it to players in this year's class like Dylan Sampson, even guys like Bhayshul, Tuten, and Skattebo that we liked, those players' draft capital isn't much better. The landing spot here in Dallas gives you a lot of hope that there can be some opportunity for some touches here on the horizon. Right now, Dallas is crazy enough to go into the season with Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders as the 2 main running backs on the roster. Drafting Jaydon Blue tells me that they have an idea to use him, and he has the juice, he has the burst that he had on his tape, which I felt like was going to be kind of his one-trick pony that he could rely on at the NFL level. That's much different than the guys in this room, so I do think that they're going to utilize it, and I do think that Dallas could be crazy enough to give Jaydon Blue a full workload, even though he doesn't necessarily profile as a 3-down back in the NFL. Even if he doesn't get the full workload, which would obviously be the ideal situation for Jaydon in Dallas, I do think he's going to be fantasy relevant this year with Dak Prescott. They can rely on the pass catching work. They can rely on the juice that he has in his backfield. And he's a player that I currently have right now ranked as my 26th overall player. So somebody that I'm definitely targeting there in the early 3rd round of rookie drafts. I've got him in a couple places this year. He's even falling later in some of my drafts than that, so you might be able to get him a little bit cheaper, but I have him currently running back 10, 26th overall. Jaydon Blue is definitely somebody you should be reaching for in your fantasy football drafts, just based of the opportunity that could potentially be on the horizon. Now, coming in at my running back 9, that's going to be Dylan Sampson of the Cleveland Browns. Now, Dylan Sampson's a player, unlike Jaydon Blue, who I did like pre-draft process. I thought he had a really good analytic profile. I thought he had a lot of juice on his tape as well. Could potentially be a 3-down back at the next level, but he goes in the 4th round, pick 126 to the Cleveland Browns, who used an earlier pick in the NFL draft on running back already. It gives me maybe not the most confidence in Dylan Sampson as having a high type of workload opportunity. Obviously, I just don't think that that's going to happen when they use an earlier pick on a better running back, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, this is a Cleveland Browns offense that is giving me real Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt type of vibes right now. I think Dylan Sampson is going to be that Kareem Hunt role. He's going to get some of the pass catching work. He's going to be a change of pace guy. He could be used pretty much anywhere between the 20s. And Dylan Sampson is going to have the opportunity to have a decent workload in this Cleveland Browns offense that's going to want to establish the run based on the uncertainty at their quarterback positions. Now, full disclosure, I have been debating Dylan Sampson and Jaydon Blue and swapping those guys, maybe moving Blue to 9 and having Sampson at 10, but they are in the same tier for me at running back. They're the only 2 running backs in that tier for me. It is going to be my tier 7, but I think that Dylan Sampson, coming in as my 25th overall player right in front of Jaydon Blue, is a player you can still target in rookie drafts and have hope that he is a high upside type of handcuff option and somebody who's going to be used in this offense as the lightning to Quinshon Judkins Thunder, and somebody you can use an early 3rd round pick on as well. Moving on to my running back 8, that's where I'm going to have Bhayshul, Tuten of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Bhayshul was drafted round 4, pick 104 by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, this is going to be a very crowded backfield at the start right now as we go into the offseason. You have guys like Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby. They even used a pick on LaQuint Allen in this draft class as well. Lots of names, but I think this coaching staff, Liam Cohen, who had Bucky Irving last year and Rachaad White, chose Bhayshul Tuten to be his guy in this backfield. He may not have a significant workload day one. Bucky Irving didn't have a significant workload day one either, but this is a player who has a ton of juice. The RAS score was off the charts, and if you guys don't know what that is, that's relative athletic score. He is a very, very explosive running back, and I think he's going to bring a lot of juice to this backfield. I don't think it's guaranteed that Travis Etienne goes into week one as a member of the Jacksonville Jaguars. If he does, he could be the Rachaad White to Bhayshul Tuten's Bucky Irving by the end of this year, and then obviously Travis Etienne is a free agent after that, so this could just become Bhayshul Tuten's roster with Tank Bigsby as the change of pace guy long term. So don't really worry about the crowded mess when it comes to your rookie drafts right now. Draft talented players in good offensive environments, and Liam Cohen with the Jacksonville Jaguars is a good offensive environment. The draft capital is fine, and at the end of the day, I have Bhayshul Tuten as my 19th overall player in my rankings, so somebody that I would be comfortable using a late second round pick on in those rookie drafts, and I'm definitely adding him to a few rosters in my leagues as well, and I think you can draft Bhayshul very comfortably in your leagues as well. Let's move on to my running back 7. My running back 7 is going to be Skattebo, who was drafted by the New York Giants. Now, he was selected round 4 pick 105, so just one pick after Bhayshul Tuten. He comes in one spot over Bhayshul Tuten in my overall rankings, and I think that's just based off of the pre-draft priors that I had on these two players as prospects. Obviously, Skattebo, very, very productive when he was there at Arizona State. 5'10", 219 pounds, had an 88 overall score when it came to next-gen stats over there on NFL.com. He has everything that you want to see, and he's going into a backfield with Tyrone Tracy as the best running back, who was a former 5th-round pick last year. Now, Skattebo has better draft capital. I think he profiles as a better in-between-the-tackles runner and the better goal line back, and this is a team that's going to have a veteran quarterback this year with Russell Wilson, and then in the future, the quarterback of Jackson Dart, who they drafted in the 1st round. I think Skattebo has the chance to be fantasy football relevant from day one, spelling a guy like Tyrone Tracy. Now, the thing that's going to be a little bit unfortunate is I don't think that Tyrone Tracy is going anywhere. This profiles to be a little bit of a committee, in my opinion, where Tracy's going to get some of the PPR work, some of the passing down work, and Skattebo will get in between the tackles, early down, goal line. You can determine what is more beneficial for you at cost in your leagues. I think there's an argument for both guys depending on the cost that you can get them in, but if it comes to drafting rookie running backs and where you want to get guys, you want to get guys who have opportunity, and I think Skattebo is going to have opportunity right now. So like I said, he comes in as my running back 7 in this year's class, my 18th overall player in my rankings, and another player just like Tuten that I'm very comfortable drafting in the late second rounds of my rookie drafts. Moving on to my running back 6, this is where I'm going to put Kaleb Johnson, running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a different tier of running back for me from that Skattebo and that Bhayshul Tuten tier. You get that day 2 draft capital. That 3rd round pick 83 was the overall draft capital for Kaleb Johnson, and he goes into a backfield here with Jaylen Warren, where I think Kaleb Johnson is going to fill that Najee Harris role and run between the tackles. He has the ability to catch passes in this backfield if they want to use him in that role. They're still going to use Jaylen Warren, but Kaleb Johnson is built to handle a majority of the work here in Pittsburgh, and I think Mike Tomlin has plans for him to be a pretty significant piece of this offense. Like I said, he's coming in as my running back 6. That's my 14th overall player, a different tier of running back, the only player in this running back tier, and I think this is a player that has an argument to be a late 1st, early 2nd round type of pick in your rookie drafts. Obviously, this Pittsburgh Steelers team is going to be changing and adapting over the next couple of years as they figure out this quarterback situation. They kind of got a draft day steal in Will Howard. I don't know if he's going to take snaps this year. Maybe he should if this Aaron Rodgers thing doesn't work out. But at the end of the day, Kaleb Johnson, he was drafted to be a big part of this offense, and at his age, 21 years old, he's going to be an asset in the Dynasty community that could see his value insulate over time, because just a year from now, even if he goes out and has a back-end RB1 season, a high-end RB2 season, he's only going to be 22 years old, and the community is going to be very high on him because he's perceived as a much younger prospect compared to a guy like RJ Harvey, who's going to be 25 years old. So I think that there's some room for some value insulation here as well, but I love the talent of Kaleb Johnson. He was my running back 5 overall in the pre-draft rankings. 3rd round draft capital, you love to see all of this stuff. Have him on your fantasy football teams, comfortably use that early 2nd, that late 1st round pick if you need the running back, and don't worry about drafting Kaleb Johnson. Moving on to my running back 5, I did name drop him. It's RJ Harvey of the Denver Broncos. He comes in as my 11th overall player in my rookie rankings right now. Have him in that tier 4, so a player that you can comfortably use a late first round pick on if you want to. The people who draft RJ Harvey are going to be a very specific type of people, in my opinion. It's going to be those managers that hold those late round picks because they were strong contenders last year. If you're drafting RJ Harvey, you want immediate fantasy football production from him here after getting drafted by the Denver Broncos and Sean Payton in the second round of the NFL draft. I think Harvey has the opportunity to come in and be the joker for Sean Payton, get used in the receiving game, get used between the tackles, maybe even on the goal line in an Alvin Kamara light type of role with Denver. That's going to equal a very, very good fantasy football relevant situation for a guy like RJ Harvey to score points for our fantasy football rosters. Now, the longevity of a guy like RJ Harvey, I'm not so sure of that long term. He is an older prospect. I think that was one of the knocks on him in his prospect profile. 24 years old, like I mentioned. Next year he's going to be 25, and then you already know the Dynasty fantasy football community is going to be talking about, well, the running back age cliff is 26, 27, 28 years old. RJ Harvey's only a year away. I think his perceived value in the community is going to be very short-lived because people are just not going to want to trade or roster an older running back. So Sean Payton and RJ Harvey, you're here for a short time, a good time, maybe not a long time, but I still love drafting him in my rookie drafts because of this. Like I said, my 11th overall player. Use that late first round pick if you're a contending roster on RJ Harvey. He comes in for me as my RB5 just based off of the landing spot alone and the fantasy football situation. But like I said, if you're looking for a value insulating asset, maybe Harvey's not the best bet for you. Let's move on to my running back 4. I am going to be talking about Quinshon Judkins. He's in my tier 3 of prospects. This is the elite players in this year's class. I think through the first 8 players, you're getting players that can turn into bona fide studs, and that's where Quinshon Judkins falls for me. Analytically, he hit all of the measures that we wanted to see. The measurables from him when it comes to height, weight, breakout age, RAS score, all of those things are everything you wanted to see. In fact, he had the highest relative athletic score of any running back in this year's class, and he goes in the second round, pick 36, just very, very early off of the board there in the second round to the Cleveland Browns. So you love everything that Quinshon Judkins has from a prospect and a landing spot type of situation. I think they're going to run the wheels off of Judkins, and Judkins is a player who's going to come into the NFL and have the opportunity to almost immediately produce as a low-end RB1, a high-end RB2. I think right now in the Dynasty community, we should probably be viewing Quinshon Judkins as a top 12, top 10 type of Dynasty running back based on the draft capital and the situation alone. I love the offensive scheme here in Cleveland for the running back specifically. And even though I have Dylan Sampson, who cracked my top 10, like I said earlier, I still think Judkins is the majority of this workload. And the new Nick Chubb in this offense with probably some better pass catching ability than Nick Chubb had before. So for me, Quinshon Judkins comes in as my running back 4, my 7th overall player, and a player that you should be using a mid first round pick on in those rookie drafts, especially if you need some running back help. Now coming in at running back 3, that's where I have his former teammate in TreVeyon Henderson. TreVeyon Henderson, he went to the New England Patriots, round 2, pick 38, just 2 picks after Quinshon Judkins. And kind of how I was talking about Judkins and Sampson being thunder and lightning, Judkins and Henderson were thunder and lightning at Ohio State. Henderson is the lightning. You put him here with the New England Patriots, who just used a first round pick on a guy like Will Campbell who can block for them. They're improving offensively with Drake May, some other weapons on this team, and Kyle Williams and TreVeyon Henderson being added. You have Mike Vrabel, a new offensive coaching staff. You like everything that's happening here in New England if you're a Patriots fan, and Henderson to me can be the engine of this offense alongside Drake May in the run game to help get this thing going and give you some explosive plays in the passing game and in that outside zone type of run. Initially, the landing spot for TreVeyon Henderson was a little bit worrisome for me because you could argue that he doesn't necessarily profile as a 3-down back. I don't think he has to be a 3-down back in this offense. I think they can spell Ramondre Stevenson in there at times, but I think Henderson is going to be the majority of the workload. Henderson to me was my RB2B in the same tier as Omarion Hampton pre-draft, and I still love him as the RB3, maybe not in that 2B type of role after the landing spots in the draft capital, but at the end of the day, this is still a player that I'm using a mid, maybe even an early first round pick on in my rookie drafts and drafting him very comfortably as one of the future centerpieces of this New England Patriots offense. Now coming in at running back 2, that's Omarion Hampton. I just talked about him being the 2A to TreVeyon TreVeyon Henderson to be in that pre-draft process. At the end of the day, Omarion Hampton, he gets first round draft capital, which is the end all be all for us in Dynasty. We love that first round draft capital, and that's what we crave to get for fantasy football purposes, because it just translates to opportunities at the NFL level, and opportunities translate to production. When you get as talented of a player as Omarion Hampton in a situation like this, where it almost feels like the Los Angeles Chargers are tailored to fit his specific skill set, I love everything that I have. Now, obviously, they did sign Najee Harris this offseason. He's going to come in, he's going to have some opportunities this year, but this is going to be Omarion Hampton's team of the future. At 22 years old, he's going to be a centerpiece of this run game with Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh. And just like Quinshon Judkins, the athleticism, the RAS score, it was off the charts, 9.7 to where Quinshon Judkins had that 9.9, which was the highest in the class. So like I said, very, very good numbers from him. At the end of the day, I think this is a Chargers team that's trying to improve the offensive side of the ball. We saw them add guys like Trey Harris, Ladd McConkey last year, obviously adding the running backs in Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton. They're going to make this thing go, and I love everything that I'm seeing. Omarion Hampton, a player that you should very comfortably be drafting with a top 5 pick in your rookie drafts this year, and he comes in for me overall as my 5th overall player in my rankings and my running back 2. And now moving on to running back 1, to nobody's surprise, it's going to be Ashton, who goes round 1, pick 6 to the Las Vegas Raiders. We talked about the first round draft capital. When you get drafted this highly, top 10 in the NFL draft, there's very, very few players who get drafted that highly. Some of the most recent going about that high, which were even later than that actually, than Ashton went, are Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. It's going to translate to opportunities. Like I said, that's what you want. He goes to the Las Vegas Raiders, who need to improve that offensive line a little bit more, but with Pete Carroll there wanting to establish the run, we obviously have a lot of faith in guys like Pete Carroll, who are known as team builders, can come in and help a franchise turn it around. He's done it at USC, he's done it at Seattle, and now he's going to attempt to do it here in Las Vegas. Jeanty's going to be the centerpiece of this offense with Brock Bowers long term. I love everything that's going to be done here. He's going to be a 3-down back, given the 100% majority of the workload for the most part, basically as much as he can handle. And if that worries you because he's going to get all of that workload on top of all of the work that he got in college, it's a valid concern, but I'm not going to shy away from drafting him 101 overall. There really needs to be no other discussions for Ashton Jeanty. He was the top tier prospect, the belle of the ball. Pre-draft, he goes top 6 to the Raiders. It's still the same thing for me today. So Ashton Jeanty, my number 1 overall player in my rankings and my RB1 here for the Las Vegas Raiders. So there you have it. That is my updated top 10 rookie running back rankings as of right now, post NFL draft. Like I said, we did the wide receivers earlier this week, so if you haven't watched that video, make sure you go watch that video after you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes on this channel, and you hit the like button today on this video if you felt like you found something informative, actionable, entertaining, all of the above. Make sure you do those 2 things for me to help support this channel. And if you want to talk with other people in our League FFB community that are talking about Dynasty fantasy football teams, trades, rookies, all of that good stuff, I got a free Discord linked in the description. Like I said, free to join, so there is no risk in doing that. So make sure you go to that description and join that community of all of these people that want to talk fantasy football with you, and maybe even join some leagues with some of these people. It's all being done in that Discord, so make sure to go join that. With all of that being said, nothing else for you guys today. I'll see you on our next episode. Until then, peace out.